This company absolutely blew my mind when I talked to them at Oshkosh. I hadn't even thought about what we're going to do with oxygen in our airplane, and Aithre really has an amazing solution that I hadn't even seen yet. So we're so impressed. We even became affiliates with them. So if you're interested in an Aithre oxygen system, do let them know that we sent you because they'll give us a small little commission and it'll help us keep making these videos. Our promo code or our affiliate code will be November 14 Victor Echo. So let's go learn about oxygen. Today we're here to talk about something most pilots don't think enough about: oxygen. We're at Aithre's booth with Aithre.
Yeah.
It's one of those names that I struggled to figure out. I read it. It's like, how do you pronounce that? Aithre.
Aithre. It comes from the feminine version of ether in Greek mythology, so it's the feminine of air.
Awesome. I'm with Dr. James Reynolds right now. You have a background in kind of understanding why oxygen is important in the human body. Tell me about that.
Well, sure. So I'm a doctor. My original training was internal medicine. I always worked in the emergency department, and I've done emergency medicine now full-time for 20 years. I have a little bit of background in hyperbaric medicine as well. Always wanted to be a pilot. Started flying now 10 years ago. And I've kind of, never looked back. I've got my instrument, I got commercial, multi, I've got some jet time, things like that. But I spend most of my time, like probably most of your audience, in unpressurized, light, general aviation aircraft. And, early in my journey, when I started crossing 4,000 and 5,000 feet, being a doctor and dealing with people's oxygen levels all the time, I wanted to make sure that mine was okay and what can I do to supplement it. And then also to monitor the carbon monoxide in the cabin as well.
Yeah. Because that will just take the oxygen away from you. If
Carbon monoxide is a whole different ball of wax. Probably everybody watching this has some familiarity. Carbon monoxide is a true poison. Now, it's not a kill you right away poison, but it's an accumulate and cause damage that you may not see coming sort of a thing in most cases. Anybody watching this, if you've not seen Dan Bass's story as an example, his story is in all social media over time. He's done a great job of really explaining a case of here's why carbon monoxide is important. But oxygen itself, forgetting, let's assume your cabin is well ventilated and you don't have carbon monoxide leaks, you're still at risk for hypoxia as you climb in altitude. And in particular, at night, your vision goes first at about a 5,000 or 6,000 foot density altitude. Mm-hmm. And your mental sharpness, your pulse oximeter, starts to fall off at about an 8,000 foot cabin altitude. So that's where we come in. We have systems to help you monitor and supplement these things. Okay.
So at a high level, you have a choice: oxygen bottle or oxygen concentrator.
Well, you nailed it right there. So up until now, really the option was bottle, because oxygen concentrator technology has been around for a long time, but not really optimized for aviation, particularly at the altitudes that RVs are capable of reaching, all right? So we have an excellent line of oxygen bottle-based products, and that really is a huge part of what Aithre, the company, was built on. And so just to talk about that quickly, because we have a very large base installed in experimentals, including obviously vans. If you see any of the bottles that we have, whatever your size and weight constraints are, the point of our technology is to help your bottle last as long as it practically can. And we do that by a metered pulse dosing of your oxygen early in the, what we would call the inspiratory phase, or early when you take in that breath, where we pulse in a little bit of oxygen, timed just so that it gets in there and is useful, but we don't waste a lot of oxygen flowing outside that's not being used. So that's the pulse-dosed, metered version of our technology, and it comes in different sizes, from a single-place portable up to a full 6-place, and we've even done more than that. But a typical would be a 2- or 4-place built-in installation. You have your plumbing, you have your oxygen fittings, you have a bottle. The bottle feeds the box, the AVI, and then that is the control unit that then meters it out independently to each passenger, makes your bottle a much more durable device. Okay, now, if you come up to the modern era, what Jim Rutler, our genius inventor, founder, engineer, everything guy, has done is he has reworked the oxygen concentrator technology that has been in the medical world for a long time and optimize it to bring on board light general aircraft and make it really useful for aviation. So those are the line that we call the turbo. And if you take a look at some of the hardware, we actually have 3 versions. They're really all doing the same thing with some differences in capability and application. So what's happening here, this is concentrating oxygen from the air around you. So whether you're at sea level, whether you're at 18,000 feet, most people watching this will know that the proportion of nitrogen to oxygen is constant no matter where you are in the atmosphere. It's about 78 to 20. All right, you can think of it as a 4 to 1. We're all breathing mostly nitrogen and about 1/5 oxygen. And of course, the problem is as you go higher, there are few molecules of air, so fewer molecules of oxygen. So what the oxygen concentrator technology does is it helps to temporarily pull back the nitrogen, let the oxygen flow through, and I can talk about what's happening there in a minute if you like. And then at the back end, you get very high concentration, nearly pure oxygen at a flow rate that is good enough to sustain on your nasal cannula or your mask, 1 person up to 18,000 feet, or even 2 people up to 15,000 feet with the basic model, and we can even go beyond that.
How much do some of these bottles weigh?
Okay, so they're actually very light. I can't quote exact weights for you off the top of my head, but in the range from 3 to 11 pounds, give or take, from a very small 47-liter bottle, 152, 408, 925. These are just different size of the same technology, and our bottle happens to be aluminum with a carbon fiber wrap. You can use other bottles, but we like these because they're lightweight and strong. They have a 15-year lifespan. Let's say, for example, let's start with a small bottle. This is if you've got good space, significant space constraints. This is a 152 liter. This is pretty small. You can tuck it into a small area. And if you're flying at 12, 14, 15,000 feet, 2 people breathing on it, you should expect to get somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 to 6 hours. And we have tables that break it down more precisely. Sure. And even that is that can be optimized. So not only does our technology sense when you breathe, deliver what you need, and then stop, but the software behind the scenes is also monitoring you. So if you take it a step further and wear one of our monitoring products, then you get pulse oximetry feedback, you get heart rate feedback, respiratory rate feedback, even more, head position and activity. And the system can sense altitude and what's your current saturation, and take into account the relatively common sense factors that say, hey, this person needs a little more oxygen, so I'm going to turn up the dosing. Or he's doing fine, SAS 96, we can actually bring it down a notch, and it can be even more conservative about metering out the oxygen that you need when you need it. So if you use the application that comes with it, it extends the life of your bottle even that much more. But that's a long answer. The short answer is whatever you might expect for your bottle if you just turned it on and wore it, we do 3, 4, 5, 6 times the duration if you use our technology. Oxygen bottle systems of whatever kind have been around since before World War II, right? And a lot of aircraft still have these built-in oxygen systems based on a large steel tank and some rigid plumbing, and they may still work, but they do require maintenance, and they break down sometimes. Up until the last year and a half or so, oxygen bottle-based systems were really your only choice in most cases. There were some concentrators on the market, predominantly in the medical world, that you can bring onto aircraft. But what we've done is we've optimized bottle-based systems to deliver and meter out the oxygen flow on an on-demand system with a lot of feedback to really extend the duration of that bottle. And then now also, and for about the last year and a half, we have oxygen concentrator systems that we've brought to market that are optimized for unpressurized general aviation at the altitudes where you really need them, kind of in that 8,000 to 18,000 foot range. And an oxygen generator can free you completely from an oxygen bottle, or in a more, kind of a higher altitude case, if you want, you can have a small supplemental bottle just for as needed use. But you really can free yourself from that burden of having the space and the weight and the trouble and the hassle and expense of refilling oxygen bottles by having a concentrator system. The concentrator itself without a bottle is great technology, and I think I mentioned the numbers a minute ago, but what it can do is it can fully support one person up to 18,000 feet or two people up to 15,000 feet without any supplement. But let's say you want two people to have that extra altitude. So in the 15 to 18,000 foot range, that's where the injection comes in. So you can see it on the product is with O2 injection. So what the concept is here is that the concentrator is doing the exact same thing. The software and the feedback algorithms are sensing when you're at those higher altitudes and you need a little bit more. So you get a little extra juice from the small oxygen bottle to kind of top off what's coming out of the concentrator and extend the altitude capability for two people all the way to 18,000 feet. And then if you're going to do a four-place, well, you just double what I said, right? So a four-place installation is two of these units. They can share a single bottle, or you could have two separate bottles either way. But the four-place would be two of the turbos on board. The basic nasal cannula that come with our products are really very nice. It's a soft silicone. It's a grade that you don't even usually find in medical environments. We actually found it in the mountaineering world. The mountaineers had found this particular material to be very good at high altitude and cold. It doesn't get stiff, doesn't chafe their nose. So we're actually, it's very, very comfortable. It's a higher quality than you usually get. And that's our basic that comes with, any system that you get. A step up in convenience from that is what we call the boom cannula. And this has been a remarkably good selling product. And it's really just what it looks like. It is a replacement for the typical over-ear nasal cannula that everybody's familiar with on a flexible, soft metal boom that's adjustable. When you need it, you just put it where you want it. When you don't need it, you can put it up out of the way. It's got an adjustable, base where you can swivel it even further out of the way. And it's just an extra degree of convenience and availability, so you don't have to break the seal with your headset to hook over your ears.
Is that permanently attached to the headset, or is it?
Well, it's a good question. So if you take a look, it's a very secure but very removable adhesive. It's the double-sided 3M sticky adhesive that your viewers will be familiar with. It's what you use to stick up on painting on the wall that you want to be able to pull that thing down.
It's like a command strip, or
yes, exactly. So it's very secure. They just don't fall off. But when you go to pull it off, it comes off clean. It doesn't leave residue. It doesn't damage your finish. And then you can reposition it, move it to another headset, whatever you need to do. Yes.
Excellent.
And then on top of that, a really very new release is the nasal pillow mask. So if you look over here, even with our products, even with our technology, a nasal cannula still by its very nature does lose some of the oxygen to the air around you. So what's happening here, this is for those kind of mid to upper teen altitudes where you really want to be capturing all of that oxygen flow. So you can see where you've got these, kind of soft little pillows that fit more securely into your nose. It leaves your mouth completely free, so you still got your microphone. And when you buy one of these, just like if you ever bought earbuds and they have 2 or 3 things for your ear to see what fits, right? You get 3 different, contour shapes in the package. So one of them's going to fit well. And this overhead strap is really very comfortable. The way I like to think about it is we've gotten the benefit from all these years where people with sleep apnea have been wearing nighttime CPAP masks, and they've really developed those products very, very well. The materials have gotten good, the comfort, the fit has gotten good, and this kind of follows along that same kind of a design. And then you also have choices where we can get into the details if you want, but you can change out this fitting here to fine tune how much you are bringing in cabin air versus just the oxygen. You can get it to your balance for your type of respiration, the type of altitudes that you fly. It's a really great product. It's selling very well. People are very happy with it. It's very comfortable, and it gives you that kind of one extra piece of the puzzle to kind of capture all the oxygen that you want at altitude. This is what we call the Illyrian, and this demo unit's gotten a little bit worn, but the concept is it's an evolution of what a pulse oximeter can be. So contained in this one little box is a lot of magic, right? Let's do it a piece at a time. Coming up off of the backside, you do need power, so it needs a little USB micro power, so from whatever source you want. And then coming out of here, is a pulse oximeter probe, and people will recognize the little window there that glows red when you've got power on, and it's just like any pulse ox you've ever seen, anything you've ever put on your finger. But again, we've got this nice soft material that's very comfortable, and the places where it works well is you tuck it just in front of your ear, just kind of under your headset cup, and it registers your heart rate, your pulse ox, and the other parameters we'll talk about in a second. Or if that's not working well for you, or if you've got a heavy beard, you can bring it up and you can put it on your forehead, and we include a headband. So, or you can bring your own headband to the party, but basically up on the middle of your forehead or maybe off the side a little bit under a headband, and it rests there, and it's really very comfortable. The point of this is that just pulling out a finger probe every now and then and checking in flight is really not good enough. And let me say what I mean by that. It's okay. It's better than nothing. If you think to pull out a pulse oximeter and stick it on your finger and you look at it and it's 72 and you have sense enough to say, and then you do something about that, well, great. That is better than nothing. But it's really not good enough for extended legs and for background safety. You really want something just like your engine monitor, just like your traffic display, just like your, you name it. You want something that's passive monitoring in the background and will alert you if there's a problem when you're not thinking to go check it, okay? So back to the technology here, it's not just monitoring your oxygen level, your pulse ox. It is, of course, doing that. It's also monitoring your respiratory rate. It's monitoring your heart rate. You'll even monitor your head movement and position. So if you slump and get still for more than X number of seconds, the algorithm will recognize that you haven't moved, and the unit itself is actually haptic, just like your smartphone or your watch is. And it'll buzz and vibrate and try to get your attention, as well as any audible alerts that we're sending you through the system. It monitors pressure. It monitors skin temperature. It's catching a lot of data. And so, again, kind of common sense. What do you want to do with that information? Well, if my heart rate starts to go up, there's something wrong, and I want to get an alert, and I want to maybe give some more oxygen. If we cross a certain altitude threshold that we've preset, maybe I've got a default, or I've programmed my custom, to say, hey, look, when I'm climbing through 12,000, I want to, increase my, whatever the customization is that fits for you. That's what this enables, and it's intelligent feedback to any of the systems, right? Whether it's bottle-based, whether it's concentrator-based. We have our carbon monoxide detector that, detectors that work in the loop. It's all an integrated system that comes into one intelligent kind of monitoring and feedback hub. And then, how do you get the information? So with any of these, you can use our application, but there's an app that'll run on an iOS device, either an iPhone or an iPad, that can help you monitor all of these things, all of the biometric data that we're collecting, the tank pressure in your oxygen if you're using a bottle system, the flow rate of your concentrator if you're using the turbo. But even a step up from that is what we are calling the Health View. This is the Health View 1. Jim brought this product to market, I guess a couple years now, and it's really excellent. It helps to monitor all of these biometric parameters, and it helps control some of them. But we've actually even gone a step beyond that, and we now have the Health View 2, and this is in partnership with Avionics, and they're just an outstanding avionics company out of Germany. And they have these head units that are modular in design. So they've been brought to market in Europe. They're very successful. They're bringing them to market here in the United States in different form factors. You can see, slightly smaller, slightly larger, standard instrument size. They've even brought, a portable mountable one if you don't have enough panel space. And if you look on the side, their design is modular. So coming from the back of the head unit are the connectors, and they have traffic display, they have radio, they have transponder, they have any of a number of aviation functionalities. And so the partnership, they already have these things fully developed and working. The partnership to use their platform as a display and control unit for our biometric data was kind of, match made in heaven, right? So there is extremely customizable, extremely high quality. The construction and the feel of these things is just beautiful. And we can absolutely integrate and control every piece of the biometric data that we're collecting, managing, feedback, acting on, kind of all through one unit. And the idea here is now this lives in your panel or as a portable unit somewhere within your field of view, somewhere within that kind of 10 to 15 degree field of view on either side. And so without having to think about it much, it's in your field of view. You can glance at it just like you glance at your attitude indicator, just like you glance at your fuel gauge, your engine monitor, whatever. This is now the engine monitor for the humans. This is now the biometric feedback and control for the pilot and every single passenger on board. And by the way, if I didn't say it earlier, these functions that I'm talking about, all of the feedback and customization, they're individual. So you can leave them all at default and not mess with them, but you can also set them individually. Let's say you've got your 4-year-old granddaughter and your 70-year-old mom, both as passengers in the back seat. Well, you may well want to set the parameters for monitoring and feedback differently for those two passengers, and that's the way the system is designed. There's no one size fits all. We have very small portable systems that are really relatively simple and relatively inexpensive. We have all the bells and whistles installed, 6-place and up systems, and anything in between. But we use very high quality materials. Jim Rutler, our founder and engineer and inventor, does the constant innovating and bringing new products to market. And there's really no parallel out there in the market as far as we can see. We've really got some great stuff here.
Awesome. Beginning to end, I know price ranges are the answer is going to be, it depends upon what you do. But to get a system in, are we looking at what kind of ballpark and price ranges?
All right, so to get a basic oxygen portable bottle-based system that one person could use for a meaningful supply and feedback, you're looking at in the neighborhood of $1,200, $1,300 as a starting point for that one person portable. If you talk about a fully capable, fully installed, high altitude 4-place system for, let's say, an RV-10, that's in the neighborhood of $10,000 or $11,000 with all the bells and whistles. And there is just kind of every step along the way, depending on what you need. And by the way, we do have both portable and installed versions available for certificated airplanes as well as experimental.
So check it out, because we all know that the rules we were taught by the FAA on oxygen is the start in place. You got to do a lot better than that. I found anytime I'm more than an hour at 8,000 feet, I always wanted oxygen. It took me way longer in my flying career to remember to learn that lesson. But some sort of oxygen system, I didn't know, we hadn't thought about it in our build yet, but it's coming here in our, before we finish the plane, because we've got to have oxygen.
That's great, and I'm glad you stopped by.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Great to meet you.
Really appreciate all the good info, and thank you for watching November 14 Victor Echo. See you next time.